On this week's episode, I'm going to show off a new pair of socks. I actually went back and reknit and redesigned my very first sock knitting pattern ever that came out in 2020. So 4 years ago. I'm going to take you along with me to some book signings as part of my book tour to promote the sock project. We're going to completely clean out and reorganize my sock dresser. I've got a lot of socks. They need a dresser of their own. And finally, I'm going to show you the glow up that we gave our dining room. It really needed a refresh. There have been many mistakes in that dining room, many mistakes with this whole house, starting with buying it. Beware of buying old houses. So all of that and more coming up. Hello and welcome. My name is Summer of Summerly Design Co. and I'm a sock knitting pattern designer based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This week's episode is jam-packed. A lot happened last week. I knit a pair of socks. I redesigned and refinished. I did a glow up to my dining room. Did a couple of book signings for my book tour for my new book. So I was traveling to and fro. And I completely reorganized my sock dresser. Some people have a drawer or a box for their hand knit socks, but because I design sock knitting patterns, I have a lot of freaking socks. And so they have their own dresser and it was a mess. So I completely cleaned that out. I decided on a whim that for the rest of the year, I should just knit a pair of socks every week, whether it's one of my existing patterns, a new sock pattern that I've designed, something from my book, whatever. I want to knit a pair of socks every week. So I kind of started this challenge this past week by knitting a new pair of socks, which I'm about to show you. All right, let's talk about these socks that I have started knitting now. So I decided it would be fun to go back and revisit the very first sock knitting pattern I ever designed way back in 2020, the Ode to Barber socks. This particular pattern was kind of born out of the yarn. I was very inspired by this yarn. It's a Madeline Tosh colorway, and it's called Barbara Deserved Better, and it is based on the Netflix series Stranger Things. I don't know if you've heard of it or seen it. It was wildly popular for a while there. Anyways, there's a side character named Barb. Barb was a friend to one of the main characters, and it's kind of unfair what happened to Barb. I'm not going to spoil it for you in case you haven't seen Stranger Things and you might be planning to at some point. So I'm not going to spoil Barb's fate for you, but I will say she did deserve better. And the people at Madeline Tosh designed a really beautiful colorway to honor Barb. And it's this beautiful pink with lots of orange and dark speckles in it. Really, really love this yarn color. So when I saw it, I was like, I've got to knit a pair of socks with that. And that's when I decided to design my first pair of socks. And I wanted a really pretty lace motif. I wanted ribbing because Barb was kind of a feminine girl. You know, she wore kind of very 80s tops, but that had pinks in them and that were a little bit frilly. So I wanted something feminine and lacy to match Barb's energy and vibe. So that's what we did. Fast forward to 2024, here I am, as you can see, knitting them again. But I decided, you know what, I've grown a lot since then as a designer, as a person, my tastes have changed. So what if I didn't just reknit these socks? What if I actually redesign them as well? So that's what I'm doing here. I'm redesigning these socks. And as you can see, as I'm knitting them, I'm also going with a completely different color palette. I'm not knitting them in the original Barbara Deserved Better color because what would be the fun in that? I picked this really beautiful green yarn from the Plucky Knitter. It's Plucky Knitter sock, and the color's called Ogre. For the toe, because I wanted a really fun splash of color at the toe, I chose a tweed yarn from Little Lionhead Knits called Sixties Blue. And I think it's really fun to mix tweed with green. I think it looks great. So that is the sock that I'm knitting. And I'm really excited to see how it plays out as I knit it and what my design's going to end up looking like. So let's keep watching. David came into the living room with his breakfast and it smelled really, really good. And so the dogs and I were all just staring at him, like hoping he would feel sorry for us. And he felt sorry for me and made me a plate of eggs and toast so that I would not go hungry. And Beasley, as you can see, was really jealous. All right, here are the finished socks, the new and improved Barbara pattern, a reimagining of my very first sock pattern, which came out 4 years ago. I'm so happy with how these turned out. I loved the original version, but I really love this new and improved version even better. All right, so redoing the sock pattern, what does that mean for the existing pattern? So if you purchased the Ode to Barbara sock pattern on Ravelry, you already own the original version, and the new version will be waiting for you in your Ravelry inbox. You don't have to pay for it twice. It's just an update to the pattern. If you don't already own the pattern, you can purchase it on my website and on Ravelry, and right now it's on sale for 20% off. You'll find that discount code and the link to the pattern in the description below the video. So if you want to check that pattern out and get it on really good discount, that's where you're going to find it. All right, let's do a little comparison. We're going to look at the new version of Ode to Barbara, which I'm actually just going to call them Barbara socks from now on. I just think that's more fitting with how I redesigned them. They got a refresh, they need a new name, but it's still similar to the old one. So this is the existing Ode to Barbara pattern. Again, that lace panel goes right down the center, hugged by ribbing. And then the new one, we've moved that lace panel over to the side, and we've actually got a different ribbing. I changed up the ribbing and I moved that existing lace motif over so that it rests on the side of your leg going down the side of your foot. So that's really the main difference between the two. And again, you can find the pattern in the description below the video. Don't forget to look for that discount code so you can get it for 20% off. All right, I wanted to do a quick tutorial of the lace stitches for this particular sock. I know when I was a newer knitter, I thought that lace was insanely complicated and only really experienced knitters could do it. People who had years and years and years of skills that they'd built up over time, I did not realize just how simple lace is. It's basically increases and decreases, like a yarn over here, a knit two together here. It's very, very simple. So I'm going to go through and show you the 3 different stitches that I use to create the lace panel in these socks. Okay, let's knit some lace. So for this particular lace motif, you only need 3 stitches. You're going to need a right leaning decrease, a yarn over, and then a left leaning decrease. For our right leaning decrease, we're going to be using a simple knit 2 together. That's a pretty basic stitch that I'm sure a lot of you already know. For our left leaning decrease, you have a couple of options. We could use a slip slip knit, or we could use an SKP. SKP stands for slip 1, knit 1, pass that slipped stitch over. So for this particular sock, we're going to be using an SKP. These directional decreases are what give this lace motif its shape. You can see we've got curves to the right and then curves to the left, and our directional decreases are what make those lovely curves. So we're going to go ahead and start with our first decrease. We need a right leaning decrease on this side, and that's a simple knit two together. To make a knit two together, you just insert your right needle into the next two stitches on your left needle, and then you knit them together. Pretty self-explanatory. All right, next we need to do a yarn over, and this is great. I'm glad that we're kind of at this point, because when you're doing a yarn over followed by a purl, you have to do your yarn over a little differently. Normally when you make a yarn over, your yarn's in back and you just flop it over your right needle and you're done. But we're about to make a purl and we need our yarn to be in front to make this purl stitch. So we have to do things a little differently when we're doing a yarn over that is immediately followed by a purl stitch. So to do that, we just simply bring the yarn to the front, then we wrap it around the right needle so that we have the yarn back in front again. So I'm going to do that one more time. We bring our yarn to the front, wrap it around the needle so that the yarn is in front again. Then we can knit our purl stitches. Okay, I need to do another yarn over, and this time my yarn over is followed by a knit stitch, so I can do my yarn over the regular way. I can simply, with my yarn in back, drape it over the top of my right needle, and that's it. Then I just get to knit. All right, now we're at the point where we're going to be doing our left leaning decrease, our SKP, or skip, as I call it. So we've got these next two stitches on our left needle. That's going to form our left leaning decrease, our SKP. We are simply going to insert our right needle into that first stitch on the left needle as if to knit it. But instead of knitting, we're just going to slip it off. Then we're going to knit that second stitch. And here comes the P. We're just going to take our left needle, insert it into that first slip stitch, and slide it over the second stitch that we knit. And that's it. That's how you make an SKP, or a left leaning decrease. So that's it. Those are the only three lace stitches you need to know to make this pattern. Your right leaning decrease, your knit two together, your yarn over, and your left leaning decrease, your SKP. And that's what gives us these beautiful right and left leaning curves in our lace motif. As I'm knitting these socks, you can see that there's also a lot of stuff going on in the background in my dining room. This dining room has been through so many changes. So we bought this house back in 2022. It was built in 1910. It's a really old house in one of Tulsa's older neighborhoods. It's a Craftsman. It had been redone by a house flipper back in like 2018, and it was done very poorly. It was her very first flip. So when we bought it, we have basically been completely redoing everything. We've had to redo like not fun stuff like plumbing and sewage that was done incorrectly. We currently have a shower we can't use because the shower pan is cracked. There are all kinds of hidden problems that just really suck to pay for. But the cosmetic stuff is fun. I do enjoy doing that. So with this dining room, we first bought it, gray walls, white trim, weird funky staircase, really ugly light fixture. Ugh. So the first thing we did was just paint it like a cream color. David then eventually rebuilt the staircase, and it looked a lot better. And that's when I decided, well, let's get creative. And so I started trying things that I thought maybe would look good, like painting the ceiling a really dark teal and trying to do like a star mural. I ended up hating that. So then I had to repaint the ceiling back cream. And then we stayed with a gallery wall for a while. And then I decided it would be awesome to have like this beautiful, like English countryside mural on the wall, like those beautiful decaying English and French countryside manor houses that have these beautiful like wallpaper murals, or in some cases hand painted murals. That's kind of the look I was going for. So we put that up in like November or December of last year. And then I lived with it for a few months and decided that while I liked the idea of it, it's not what I wanted for this house. So ended up pulling it down. It was just peel and stick. It wasn't that expensive, came down pretty easy. And now here we are once again doing something to our house. So that's what's going on here is I'm basically redoing our dining room. And I got the inspiration. We're doing a mixture of beadboard on bottom, board and batten on top. And I got the inspiration from a tropical smoothie cafe, which is a chain of fast casual restaurants where they sell like health food, but it's actually not that healthy. Their smoothies are loaded with sugar. It's insane. But I really liked their decor inside. So that's where the inspiration came from. I'm painting the walls this really beautiful color called Lulworth Blue. It's by Farrow Ball, and it's just shaping up really, really nicely. All right, are you ready for the final reveal of the dining room? We worked so hard on this week, so I'm super excited to finally get to show it off. Let's look at the finished dining room. I'm really proud of it. All right, in addition to all of this knitting, all of this dining room redo, I also, like I said, was traveling for my book tour. I'm pretty much staying close to home. I'm traveling within Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas for this particular leg. Although later this summer, I will be doing a huge, like, Great American Road trip out west, traveling all across the country. So I'm hoping to do some more stops later this summer where I do a signing event and just talk about sock knitting. But for now, staying close to home. So this week we drove to Oklahoma City to Full Circle bookstore for a signing. And then I got to do my hometown book launch here in Tulsa at Magic City Books. It was really cool doing the book signings. I got to meet a lot of sock knitters. I got to talk about sock knitting. I really had the best time, and I've got more signings coming up. I will be in McKinney, Texas at the McKinney Knittery tomorrow, this coming Saturday, February 24th. I think that's the right date. I don't even know what today is, to be honest. Ugh. Okay, so I know that a lot of you have sock drawers, right? You have a drawer. That's really drawer. I get on camera and I cannot say words. A drawer for your socks. Let's try this again. You've got a sock drawer. It still sounds weird. Ooh, okay. You have a sock drawer. Third time's the charm. You have a drawer. Why can't I say? Have a thing in your dresser that when you pull on the handle, a box comes out. That's where you keep your socks. Or you have a cute little box that you keep your hand knit socks. I've got an entire dresser for my socks. And the reason being is that I have been designing sock knitting patterns for 4 years now. Not only all of my self-published patterns, but all of the patterns that were in my book. So that's a lot of freaking socks. So they need an entire dresser in which to live. So I went to this like secondhand consignment store and bought this really cool old dresser for really cheap. And that's where I store all of my socks. And it had become a freaking mess. Like I would paw through it looking for particular pairs to like photograph or video. And I wouldn't put them back in the right place. I would just grab handfuls and then just shove them, stuff them. They were not folded neatly. It was a mess. So I needed to reorganize and clean it. And so I spent like a good 4 hours like going through and doing that. Here's a much more abbreviated, way more abbreviated than 4 hours, quick little video of what it looks like when you need to clean your sock dresser. Okay. So there's literally like, I don't know, hundreds of socks that I've got to fold neatly. This is like the world's best and worst pile of laundry. So I'm just going to get started. Just dive in. That's all I can do. All right, once again, if you want to knit the beautiful new and improved Barbara socks, you can find the link to that pattern in the description below the video. You will also find the discount code to save 20% on the pattern. If you had previously bought the Ode to Barbara Socks pattern, you will find it waiting for you, this new updated version, in your Ravelry library. You don't have to buy it again to get the new version. So remember that. I don't want you to pay for it twice since you already own it. This is just an update to it. The discount code and the link is for people who have never bought this pattern before and want to get in on it now. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I had a lot of fun going through my week with you and showing you all the stuff that I did, that I made, places I went. I'm really looking forward to next week's episode. You're going to be designing a pair of socks with me. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We are literally going to design a pair of socks. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. It's totally blank. I have no idea what this sock is going to look like. So you're going to design it with me. We're going to watch the whole process unfold. I'm really looking forward to that. So if you want to see that, and if you enjoyed this video, you can hit the subscribe button to always get the latest videos from me. I publish a new one every Friday, and sometimes little specials pop up here and again. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up as well. And again, links to everything you can find in the description of the video. Yarn that I used, all of that, the patterns, the paint colors, everything. It's all in the description below the video. So thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.